Hi everyone, welcome. I thought today I'd talk a little bit about the McMaster Health Science program. I know it's a highly sought after program, especially for people that want to go into medicine. And I just wanted to give my full experience in full transparency for you guys so you know a little bit more about the selection process as well as the curriculum throughout the 4 years. I know there are a lot of rumors out there too about it, and I just thought it might be nice to clear some of those up. So, a bit about myself. I'm actually from suburban Markham and I entered the program in 2014. Within the program, I did a biomedical specialization, and concurrent with my Bachelor of Health Sciences degree, I pursued a minor in math and stats. I graduated in 2018 and now I'm at the University of Toronto for a degree in medicine. So I think the most prevalent of these myths and misconceptions regards the selection process, namely that you need an extraordinarily high school average, like 99 or something, to get into the program. And full disclosure, I did have above a 99% average in my high school year when I was applying to the program, but I don't think that's what got me in. I believe in my year or the year after, they received about 3,000 applications and for about 200 spots. So that's a lesser than 10% admissions rate. And so when your admissions filter has to be so strong, it definitely becomes a very selective process. But a lot of people, qualified and deserving individuals, will slip through the cracks, especially with programs like health science or integrated science, which I know is also a highly sought after program. You have to write this supplementary application. And even though basing things like admissions on grades is problematic in and of itself, when you add the supplementary application, there's definitely a give and take, because on the one hand, you get to see what kind of people these applicants really are. But on the other hand, when it comes down to it, it's not perfect in its selection. It's people marking people. So with anything where it's people marking people, it becomes something of a subjective process, wherein if the person grading your application doesn't like it for one reason or another, whether that be intrinsic or actually justifiable, they might not grade it very highly. And because of that, even if you do deserve the spot and you are a fantastic individual, which I fully believe, you might not get that position that you really want. So a bit about the selection process and the application process. I believe, as with all programs in OUAC, you submit your initial application in January sometime, and then you're supposed to finish the health science supplementary application by early to mid February, though I don't know if it's changed since my days, so don't quote me on that. And then the selection process kind of spans from February to, I guess, late April, early May, with the admissions being released in early May. So the way that I believe it works is, actually a long time ago, the grade cutoff was maybe 85. And after they started to gather this abundance of applications, they raised the cutoff to 90. And what I mean by it being a cutoff is that it's actually very strict. Using a machine or computer-based system, they sort out all the people that don't meet the cutoffs, and their supplementary applications are never reviewed. I believe there are 2 rounds, so if before the new semester your grades do meet the cutoff, they start to review the supplementary applications, and then they have a final round of supplementary applications to review subsequent to the midterm grades from the second semester in semestered high schools. So from what I remember grading supplementary applications in my final year of the program, we graded each response on a scale from 1 to 7, where in between 5 to 7, it was more discriminate, whereas the people that you awarded a 7 should only be the applicants whom you would really vouch for having a spot in the program and whom you really thought were the strongest applicants. And I believe between all the people that grade each application, the results are tallied, and then from there they would choose the final admitted candidates. There is a 90% cutoff, but after that, only if you have the exact same score would they ever really look at your grades as a tiebreaker. So I remember once actually talking to the former dean of the health sciences program, Dell, and he actually recently passed away last year, so rest in peace. But I remember him saying that he wished he didn't have to impose any kind of grade cutoff for the program, because he didn't believe that grades were a reliable indicator of whether someone would succeed or not succeed in life, whether they deserved or didn't deserve to be in the program. And I totally agree with that. I think in high school, there is a component of your grades that comes from whether you can grasp the concepts and whether you're like science minded or mathematically minded or English minded or whatnot. But there's also a significant component of your grades that's not dependent on your ability, and it's rather dependent on whether you can get inside your teacher's head and answer the questions as they would answer it. So it's more reliant on whether your way of thinking commutes with your teacher's way of thinking. And I don't think that that subjective measure of whether you grasp a concept is really that fair to judge people on. And of course, there's also a third component of whether your teachers like or don't like you, since high school classes tend to be pretty small, and first impressions can go a long way in whether you feel they deserve a certain mark or another. So I guess the next big misconception is that Health Sci is this quote unquote pre-med program. And first of all, I don't personally believe that it is. However, there are a lot of stark similarities between the Health Sci program at McMaster and the U of T Med program. So in the Health Sci program, we use this thing called PBL, or problem-based learning. And basically what this means is there was a bunch of research done a while back that showed if you give students a problem and you force them to do their own research, to guide their own learning in solving that problem and learning the concept, they'll retain that information a lot longer. And they'll understand the concept a lot better than if they were to go off of rote memorization, like the kind you do when you try to memorize the periodic table elements or something. And I distinctly remember in my first year of the Health Sci program, we had this course called psychobiology. And in the psychobiology course, our big problem was to write an essay. And that sounds all good and similar, but there was a big twist to this, which was the essay wasn't an individual essay, which I think people that were in the program at the time were apt to do because they were used to relying on themselves and no one else for their own success. This was a group essay. So the big problem was, here's your topic, write an essay about it. It has to be da-da-da-da length and da-da-da-da space and include this whatever and whatnot. And the twist really forced students to step outside of their comfort level and collaborate with people when they maybe thought they could do a better job themselves. And that's another problem that you initially encounter when you're in the program, is that you have all these different individuals from various walks of life. But their commonality is that they've been so successful up until that point that they believe their way is the best way. And you try to stick like 5 or 6 of those people in a group and tell them to write an essay, and it really just goes kaboom because everyone has their own method of doing things. You're in this place where you want to make friends with the people in your program, but at the same time, you feel like you're right, and you really have to cooperate and learn how to interact with people in a non-hostile way that's conducive to everyone's success. And that was the big problem in this. And I think looking back on it, it wasn't so much the content of the essay itself, but it was learning those people skills and those transferable skills that really forced those people out of their comfort zone and into a place of cooperative success rather than individualistic success that allowed them to be successful later on in life. Throughout the 4 years of the health science program, there's an abundance of tasks where you have to choose how to facilitate and consolidate your own learning. And there's no one over your shoulder nagging you to hand in assignments. If you don't hand in an assignment, that probably just means a really poor grade on that assignment. I think part of university is really learning to take care of yourself and learn what learning strategies really work best for you. A really important concept as a high school student going into the university is the idea of a half-life of knowledge. And half-life of knowledge was coined by someone way back, and it refers to the amount of time it takes for half of the information in a specific discipline or topic to become obsolete or incorrect. The point of me wanting you to understand this is that in any discipline, over time, all the information is refreshed and nothing indubitably lasts forever. And university is less about learning the facts and more about learning how to learn. And this is something that my dad and I always say, but it really is a time when you discover more about yourself and about how you can best facilitate your own success and how you can become more independent and more self-sufficient. I think another big element of why people in the health science program do end up getting into professional schools or the futures or the jobs that they want is because the health science program not only emphasizes the idea of obtaining knowledge, but also the obtaining of soft transferable skills that you might not necessarily receive emphasis on in other programs. So what I mean by this is those skills that will remain valuable to you regardless of what program or specialty you end up going into. So things like people skills and conflict resolution and how to research rather than what to research or the content of the research, and how to kind of regulate yourself so that you do meet your own goals and you meet your ultimate objectives. So one thing that I always like to tell people, and especially my brother, who's definitely way tired of me nagging him about this, is that no matter where you go or what you end up doing, one indisputable fact is that you're going to rely on people in some respect. So what this means is whether you're working your way up a corporate ladder and you want that new promotion, or you have conflicts with your coworkers and you need to quell them so that you can both do work that will grant you success, no matter where you go, you're going to depend on people in some way. It's so important that you acquire these people skills and this emotional intelligence early on so that you can strengthen and use those skills for the rest of your life. And I think this is another thing that the health sci curriculum really emphasizes. And that does a lot to keeping an open mind and to really just becoming an awesome human being. All in all, I think there are a lot of really special people in the program. That being said, however, there are also a lot of really, really special people elsewhere. So what I would say about the application process, as I mentioned before, is it's very selective. And because of that, a lot of people slip through the cracks, meaning it's not too sensitive a process. And all in all, the fact of the matter is, when it is so selective, it becomes less of a skills-based application and more of a lottery-based application where the skills will get you so far, but you do need that ounce of luck, or maybe that liter of luck to get you past the finish line. So one thing that I want to make sure I get across, since I know a lot of the people that apply to health sci are hoping to go on to medical school, is that health science is not the be all and end all if you want to go into medicine. Sure, in med school, I encounter a lot of people that were in the health science program, but there are also a lot of people that come from diverse disciplines. The point is, whether or not you get into the health science program does not determine whether you can go on to have a successful career in medicine. If it's really something you love and want to do for the right reasons, then there's no reason that you shouldn't work hard to get to where you want to be. You will get there regardless of what path you take. All roads lead to Rome, right? Furthermore, some advice that I have for people that want to get into med but maybe don't make it into the health science program is to look at these components that I said work so well in the curriculum and think about how you can simulate those environments in your real life. You have to push yourself into a slightly uncomfortable place so that you can grow as a person. Personally, I've always been super socially awkward, ever since I was little, ever since high school, probably since I was born. Being in the health science program kind of forced me to interact and to depend on people. And I think lots of people that become really academically successful throughout high school become very self-sufficient. But they also develop some element of a trust issue wherein they think if they don't produce the results themselves, they're not as reliable. And because of that, they're less likely to collaborate with other people to achieve even greater success than to just rely on themselves and produce that lesser success. Find some way where you can collaborate with people, build those transferable people skills, increase your emotional intelligence, things like that. Because as I said, that will help you regardless of where you go. So there's this technique coined by Richard Feynman called the Feynman technique, and the idea is you learn with the intention of teaching. And even just thinking about how you would teach something guarantees that that topic will come up in your mind regardless of whether you intend it to or not throughout your day, over the next couple of days, etc., etc. And because of that, you'll have rehearsed that information several times by the time you actually need to use it for a test or exam. And as someone who was a mathematics TA and was highly affiliated with the math and stats program, I can definitely attest to the importance of doing problems rather than just making notes. If you want to learn how to do something, you really have to put yourself out there, maybe be slightly uncomfortable, and apply the knowledge that you want to use. Another thing that you can glean from the program being so small and tightly knit is that you should find a group of individuals whom you can depend upon for social support as well as for academic support, and maybe even find a mentor. There's someone that's been where you have been, and they've kind of traveled the road and made some mistakes along the way. And if they can share those mistakes that they've made and share the path that they've taken, that really saves you from making all the mistakes all over again. The one last thing that I would stress is among the people I've met in the health sci program and the extraordinary people I've met outside of the health sci program, I think one important characteristic that you can really nurture within yourself is this idea of self efficacy. Because confidence, and I know it's trite, but it's really such an important trait. Because if you believe that you can and are apt to absorb this knowledge and to do well on a test, you're going to be willing to go so much farther in that process, and that's going to give you better results. So, what I mean by this is you kind of want to build a good reputation and build rapport with yourself, wherein after every one of these obstacles and conquering all these challenges, you can look back and you can think, wow, I'm really amazing. I believe that I can get through it. And look at all the examples I have of me getting through it because I persevered and I worked hard. So overall, I really love the program and I really love the curriculum. One of my favorite things was just the tight-knit element of the group. Like, the program was pretty small to begin with. It's only 200 people. But within the biomedical specialization, it was only about 10 to 15 people. And that meant you always had people that were exactly where you were and that could empathize with the struggles that you were going through. And being able to have that social support means that you won't sink into the slump that a lot of university students sink into when they realize there aren't teachers behind them, there aren't family members with them, and they don't have as many friends as maybe they had in high school. Additionally, I do kind of want to vouch for McMaster because McMaster has this grading system where if you're between a 90 and 100, no one will ever see your actual percentage grade. They just see the A plus or the 4.0 or the 12 on this 12-point scale. And because you had that 10% of leeway, it really guaranteed that unlike high school where I definitely demanded myself to be quote unquote perfect, even though perfection is this asymptote that you can't really hit. At McMaster, I felt that I had the freedom to do other things, like do extracurriculars like choir or maybe do some coding or whatnot. Additionally, the grading system allows you to maybe get a part-time job. And I actually managed my way throughout university working as a waitress and working as a medical assistant at a clinic. And between the two of those jobs, I was able to pay off my tuition and my living expenses. So it's definitely something that maybe going into university you don't think about, but once you get there and once you realize the flexibility you have, you realize you can do so much more with your life than you maybe previously thought. University is huge and you're learning how to be a person, you're learning how to be independent. And between all of those things, you have a lot more freedom to go out and meet interesting and diverse people, to go pursue hobbies and explore interests that you might never have known you had. And you really want to take advantage of that because I know it sounds cliche, but you're really only young once. And when you're young, your brain works well, your body works well, everything is kind of like lined up. And if you don't make the most out of that, you're definitely going to think about it with some remorse in years to come. I think you can make an amazing career, an amazing education, regardless of what program you end up in. So all in all, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it served to clear up some of the concerns and questions you might have had about the McMaster Health Sci program. If you have any more of those comments, questions, concerns, definitely leave them down below and I'll get back to you. I might even make a follow-up video if there are enough of those. And if you want advice or you're a little bit worried or down, I welcome you to reach out to me and I'll be sure to get back to you. I'll leave some contact information down below. I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend. And if you like the video, like and subscribe. All right, bye.